Hello there everyone, Ashnflash here, and welcome on in to a very interesting video. Now, I mentioned this in another video, and if you haven't seen it yet, I actually had the opportunity to interview one of the co-creators of Ninjago, as well as the team lead that designs the LEGO Ninjago sets. I will link that here at the top as well as at the end of the video. If you want to check that out, I really recommend it because they talk about something really important and that I want to talk about in this video, and that is Borg Tower. Now, this has been a sought-after fan location, and from my interview and a couple of other interviews, because it was randomly selected from a bunch of people that asked on the LEGO Ambassador program, we asked if we could interview them. They randomly selected 5 people, so from different interviews, we're just getting more and more information, and just more that people are talking about Ninjago City Gardens, interviewing more and more people. We're getting some really cool stuff. And if you haven't seen that interview, I know I'm still talking about it, but there's a lot of interesting stuff. Specifically, they mentioned that the tower was on their list of things that they want to include coming and going forward with Legacy or just Ninjago in general, if it pops up in another season, different things like that. It's really interesting the way that they're talking about how sets are made and things like that. But they talk about how it's on their list of things that they want to do, and they just haven't quite figured it out right. But today, I think, is honestly one of the coolest bits of preliminary and just information about what the original Ninjago City Gardens was going to look like and what was scrapped. Because to me, and I was sent this by so many people over the past few days wanting me to talk about this because it's actually crazy and so interesting. And to me, when I look at this preliminary build here, and this is from a article actually talking to the actual designer of the set, you can find the article linked down below in the description. There's a bunch of other preliminary stuff about some of the character designs and what they originally look like, so you can check that out. But I want to talk about this because the preliminary builds here for the build is just so fascinating, and the characters and things that they originally included, it's so interesting. So first of all, the biggest draw is Borg Tower there at the top. I think down to the very top colors there, if that wasn't green, like those little green windows underneath, and if that was yellow and even at the top, to me that just screams Borg Tower. And even some of the coloring there, like, you know, we see it a lot of times at nighttime, so the color can be changed, and I like the sand blue at the top as well. That looks really cool. But the fact that it's transparent there and just the shape of that, it to me just absolutely screams Borg Tower. You can't tell me otherwise. And even when we are looking at the tower here, I think a lot of people originally thought that's what it was going to be, but of course we saw that they called it the Ninja Tower or whatever it was. So that's pretty fascinating to me to see that originally, at least looking at the shape of that, it was going to be included here. Now there's a bunch of other interesting things here that have been changed up. One of the things at the top as well was there was this large 6x6 sticker, which looks really cool with some sort of advertisement on there. But as you continue down, you could see that Cole was there in like a classic black outfit there, which is really neat, one of the classic ninja ones. But underneath that, Chen's Noodle House isn't there. It's actually on the other side. But what's there is a police station, which is really interesting because I think if this version with the police station being there would have gone through, they would have included the chief that everyone's been wanting for such a long time from the show. So I think that's really cool and interesting to think about. And even outside there, you could see that a police officer is actually arresting Garmadon. So that it would have been neat if we could have gotten like a legacy version of Garmadon from one of the newer seasons or something like that. But as you continue across, you can notice that overall, the shape of the tree doesn't change from this model. It's kind of interesting, but even looking at Chen's Noodle House, it looks really great. I do love it, and you can see just some of the windows and things, and just overall, they did change quite a lot here of some colors and different things that they decided to do, but I think that the thing that stays the most consistent is definitely the tree looking at it. But I really love just looking at this preliminary version. Like, it's just so fascinating to see that tower at the top, the colors and everything that they chose, as well as that police station. I think is so fascinating, and to me that signals, if we were to do another one, that we are going to put a police station in. At least that's what I think when I see that. And I think it would fit really well. I think that you could definitely have like the chief's office, even have like a second layer, kind of like what they did with Ronan's shop, giving him 2 layers dedicated to that. So I think that would be pretty cool for an expansion for this. But anyways, not only do you get a look at the front, you also get a look at the back, and you could see that another little, I call them gazebo builds. I don't know the actual term, but it just looks really neat there with like a big rock build. So instead of having the garden there where Zane was included, you could see it in the back there with this tiny little build. And I mean, the one that we got in the final version is so much better than that thing. But even like you could see some of the things in the back, there was very basic detail here. And looking at Ninjago City, it does not have a lot of detail in the back, and this is kind of in line with that. But you could see that they kind of did more, I think, here on the back than they did with Ninjago City. I love the hand for some reason sticking out holding the plant holder. I think that's really neat. And even the balloon piece there for the pot for the plant, that looks pretty cool. And even the stairs, it's so fascinating. I don't know about you guys, but I find this so interesting. But also included is this second version, not the final version, it's this other one. So it's kind of in between this preliminary one and then closest thing to what we get for the final, which is really, really cool. So everything's kind of in place. All the buildings are locked down. There's a couple different things that you'll notice here that I think are really neat. Like a bunch of stickers and things aren't finalized, but what I really like at the top is actually the gold. I really love the way that looks. I think the gold at the top looks really neat. I don't think they finished the top there for the Zen Garden, but everything else seems to be pretty much finalized. Just some of the coloring and things like that. Like you could see that the window frames there for the museum are red, whereas in the final one it's this bright blue, and a bunch of the signs, like there's a key or something like that, which is really cool looking. I like the build of that. I like when they do builds and not just these cool references. Like I like the Lego references, don't get me wrong, but just having like that sort of build is really fascinating, I think. But it's really neat. Again, the tree's just so consistent. I think that's pretty fascinating. And they changed one of the building colors as well above where Cole's standing from white to tan. Also included on the back, you could see a bunch of how they were trying to like liven it up a bit from behind. And the little island there changed a lot. You could see a preliminary version of Gold Woo, but also to the side there of the ice cream shop there was a little area that stuck out just like they had for Chen's Noodle House, so that's kind of interesting. But overall, I just find this so fascinating, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Check out the article down below if you haven't seen it yet, but to me this just signals they wanted to do it here. They wanted to have a little reference, and then they just didn't think it was working. And they kind of mentioned how they might do something like the Avengers Tower, where that's a playset on its own, which I think would work really well. As well as I have an idea of how I want to actually build a Borg Tower and actually connect it and make it feel like it is a part of the gardens and like the regular city other Ninjago sets. And I think that there's ways to do that, and I definitely want to try and do that. But right now you guys voted, and I'm actually working on a Gotham City project in line with this where it could connect to Ninjago City, but it looks and feels a lot like this, where it's got all these different tiers, all these different references and things like that. So I'm very excited to share you guys some of the concept art and stuff like that I am working on with that, some progress. But anyways, everyone, what do you think of this? Again, I find this stuff so fascinating, and the fact that it was here, we were so close to getting it. Even figure-wise, I feel like if they did include that, then Borg would have been in this set. So that is a bit of a shame, but I think that this is just really, really, really neat. And I'm so happy with how this turned out in the end. It's my favorite set of all time, but just looking at the concept and the preliminary work here, it's cool to see what we almost got. I know I've still got a bunch of Ninjago City Gardens videos to come, so don't worry about it. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I hope that you all have a great day. I will see you all in the next one.